Hello again, this is the Deaf Lady, and I want to read to you some more from a book by Carey called The Starseed Transmissions. And part is around the beginning of the book, and it's called The Singularity of Collective Human Consciousness. Now, I come from the presence where there is no time, but the eternal now. I retain, even in the midst of this relationship, an awareness of this realm and of the universal being that inhabits it. I come with a message that will prove vital to you in these final days of your history. My individual identity comes into being only as I enter the context of my relationship with you. When I am no longer needed in this capacity, I will merge back into the being behind all being. There I remain in unity and fulfillment until the next impulse comes to send me on another mission. In the interim, there is no distinction between me and the Source. I and others of my kind desire at this time to bring humans to the same level of awareness. I am a focus of collective human consciousness, but at this time you have little conception of what that means. You do not yet suspect what the singularity of collective human consciousness might be. You still draw identity from the present form of your expression. You feel defined and limited by flesh and bones. You are only beginning to comprehend your oneness with other forms of life. For me to tell you with these limiting definitions you have of yourself, that I represent an element or a focus of your collective consciousness, would actually be less accurate than to say that I am extraterrestrial. I meet the criteria of the latter term in that I do come from outside your planetary field of influence. I bring instructions to your race from the directive organ of galactic being. When you remember your true nature and begin to draw identity from the totality of your being, then it could be stated with all validity that I am an element of your own consciousness. However, at that point you will no longer perceive me as you do now. When you have awakened to the reality of your true being, you will perceive me and all of my species as being inside yourself. Until then, you perceive me as being outside yourself. There is but the filmiest of screens between your present condition and your true nature. It is our mission to assist you in bridging this gap, to awaken you from sleep, to bring you to the fulfillment of your destiny. The state of consciousness that I represent does not normally verbalize. It is difficult for me to relate what I wish to convey only through the words and concepts with which you are familiar. Your language was designed to facilitate commerce. What we put together with its components can only approximate my meaning. There is another, more ancient language, more conducive to discourse on this level, but you have forgotten it. It is the universal language of light. Its transfer of information is accomplished through the actual projection of living informational units. These units are at once more specific and more inclusive than your words. They have been designed to convey organic information of concise yet comprehensive informational content. Humans have a tendency to become imprisoned in their concepts. You must remember that your words and concepts can be both fallible and misleading. They are not absolutes. Do not confuse them with the realities they represent. No statement that I can make can be taken as an absolute statement. This does not mean that I am coming from a vague place. On the contrary, it means that your words are not precise enough to express the levels of vibratory awareness that I am attempting to communicate through them. If we are able to get the totality of our message through to even a few individual cells of your collective body, these few should be able to translate this information into forms of cultural expression that will bring about your awakening far more effectively than our overt manipulations of the historical process. The message that is revealed in these pages is the key that will unlock your own latent informational input systems. We are here to put you in direct contact with the source of all information. Our mission is to bring a pre-fall state of awareness to all human beings who are able to respond, however different they may be, whatever background they may have come from, using whatever conceptual structures seem appropriate. These individuals will then be instructed to translate this awareness into forms of information exchange appropriate to their respective cultural situations. During the period of vibrational transformation, each of you will have a variety of roles to play. Each of you will translate the life impulse into patterns appropriate to your environment and express this impulse in your daily living. I am now blending my consciousness with the cells of your body in order to provide you with some of the more specific information that I do occasionally relate, but I do this as little as possible. My primary function is to show you how to tap these systems of data retention for yourselves. With guidance, you will learn to release your definitions of who you think you are. Open yourself up to the experience of a much greater reality than you presently believe possible, and return to a level of consciousness where you will be able to communicate with us, not through cumbersome words and concepts, but directly through communion with all that is. Do you want to know more about extraterrestrials? Do you want a definition of angels? We are you, yourself, in the distant past and the distant future. We are you as you were, would have been, and still are, had you not fallen from your original state of grace. We exist in a parallel universe of non-form, experiencing what you would have experienced had you not become associated with the materializing process. I act in this capacity as a midwife at your birth into form. I am an angel of destiny, a messenger from the stars, but I am also the reflection of your unity before and after matter. I am here to enter your consciousness, here to wake you up. Blending with you now in this communication that is also communion, I can sense a forthcoming period of union. I sense its strange and awesome realities. I feel like an explorer in some vast and uncharted land. Are you aware of the uniqueness of physical reality? I sense both pleasure and pain at my entry into your events. I sense pain at the potential I see wasted, and at my own commission to verbalize. But I sense pleasure at what I am experiencing through your senses. For though your sensory channels are in your exclusive dependence on them, your greatest limitation, they are also marvelous instruments of perception. They are truly your crowning virtue as well as your tragic flaw. This is the first time that I have had the opportunity to perceive reality in this manner. I've never seen the structure of time and space reduced to such intricate and beautiful patterns. I would look out of our eyes for a while and take in the colors and the room and the trees outside the window, and delight in the curious way you perceive light as illumination. I would love to explore your world in a playful and childlike fashion. I can better understand now how you are deceived. Such a deep realm of awesome forces, the material plane. Yet you will not be able to continue here much longer if we don't get on with the business at hand. Much that I am now seeing will not survive many more years of human ignorance. It is important that we use this time to supply you with the information you need. It is important that we restore you as the central control mechanism of this planet to a proper state of function. Perhaps a day will come, after all has been set to right again, when we can spend some time together just enjoying the wonders of creation. I would delight in an opportunity to travel about with you, seeing what you would show me out of your eyes, hearing what you hear with your ears, feeling the touch of earth on that wonderful substance that is at once both sun and stone. But now there is work to be done. We must forge the conceptual tools that will set you free. And now I'm going to skip over here. And I'm going to not put the words into my orb pictures because I just want to make this video and get this out there. So I'm going to read you a part from chapter 3 that is called The Shadow of Future Creation. Since the first breath of God at the beginning of all the worlds, it was preordained that creation would exist within a rhythm of expansion and contraction. Eventually, there would come a time when the physical universe would stop expanding and begin to contract. The Hindus refer to this process as the inbreathing and outbreathing of Brahma, the process through which God breathes out all of creation and then breathes it all back in again. At this point in linear time, we are close to the middle of the cycle, soon to reach the exact midpoint where the out-breath and the in-breath, between the out-breath and the in-breath of God. The universe began to reach this midpoint of unicellular organisms as unicellular organisms were emerging on the earth. But the exact midpoint is yet to be attained. It will coincide with what has come to be called the second coming of Christ. When any vibrational system reverses the momentum of its direction, as a pendulum does at the uppermost point of its swing, there is a moment of complete rest before it resumes its movement in the opposite direction. Since rest, or the total cessation of movement, constitutes the opposite of time, there is at the precise moment of its occurrence a micro-interval of non-time, a moment of eternity. This is the same interval of non-time that occurs many times each second as the atoms of the physical world vibrate back and forth. This is an opening into the Nagul, a doorway into the presence from which all life energy springs. What happens when a universe stops expanding and begins contracting? What happens when an entire cosmos reaches the exact point of directional change and comes to a moment of absolute rest? You will have the opportunity to see for yourself very soon, for this event lies just before you in linear time. It will provide an opening for the emergence of something incomprehensible. Before we touch upon the nature of this occurrence and its implications for human beings, let us consider, however briefly, something of your nature as you existed prior to the fall. The entire biological history of this planet has been but the shadow cast in matter by your approach. It is the way that rocks and water and air have begun to respond to our presence. For you are life itself. You are that which lies beyond all duality, beyond all materializing tendencies, beyond all restraints of time and space. Your consciousness is both infinite and eternal. It can dwell in the limitations of matter and perceive through whatever filtering systems you so choose. But in healthy function, it is not bound or limited by those systems. Rather, it uses them as instruments of perception, exploration, and adventure. Outside of time and space, you are one with the Creator, the all that is, the Source. But when your consciousness moves within the context of a manifest universe, you become the Son, the Christ. In essence, you are the relationship between spirit and matter, the mediator, the bridge, the means through which the Creator relates to creation. You are life as it relates to planet Earth, eternity as it relates to time, the infinite as it relates to the finite. Though you presently experience yourself as a separate and fragmented species, you are in fact a single, unified being, sharing the full consciousness of the Creator. You are brought into living, focused expressions when you are inside of creation, by the manner in which time and space, matter and energy, sea and stone, react to your presence. As the Christ, as the only begotten consciousness of the Father, you have been given a number of remarkable qualities. You are able to expand and contract in accordance with the focus of your attention. You are large enough to encompass all of creation, yet small enough to excuse me, swallow of water. You are large enough excuse me. You are large enough to encompass all of creation, yet small enough to climb inside. Your Father, Creator, also permeates creation, but in a different way. In His vastness, He surrounds creation. His being saturates the physical universe, all the stars, the sun, the planets in your solar system, the distant galaxies. But He relies on you for His focus. You are His specific attention. As the focus of the Creator's attention, you have been roaming around inside of creation for billions of years, expanding and contracting, drifting in and out of this galaxy, this star system, that star system. Everywhere you go, you see the matter that your Father has created. You observe the many wonderful forms it takes, the mighty suns, the red giants, the white dwarfs, the vast spiraling galaxies, the quasars, the black holes, the white holes. You watch the incredible contortions of time and space that take place in the various gravitational fields you pass through. You note the planets, moons, asteroids, and comets circling within each star system you visit. You drift around the Father's representative, the Father's attention, and you enjoy the worlds that have been brought into being. But all these worlds are physical. They are all made of matter. They are made of the bonded energy attention of the Father. They have a certain substance, a certain solidity that you as spirit lack. You realize that that is their limitation. You realize that they are defined and specified in ways that you are not defined and specified. Yet something about them intrigues you. By and by you get an idea. You begin to wonder if you might not just possibly, somehow or another, clothe yourself in matter and construct for yourself a physical body that you could then travel around in, perceiving matter from the same perspective with which matter perceives it herself. The idea contains one paradox after another, yet something about it keeps you wondering. It puzzles you, and you love puzzles. You keep mulling it over as the eons roll on by, trying to figure out some way to make it work. Until this point, there was no biological life in the universe. The rocks had a limited consciousness. but it was not responsive to the intent of your spirit. In solid, liquid, or gaseous states, matter as created and defined by your Father behaved quite predictably, according to fundamental physical principles, unhampered with until that time. Throughout your travels in the physical universe, you had always kept your consciousness separate from the matter you observed. At the time you hit upon this plan, however, all that changed. You looked around until you found a suitable planet for what you had in mind, not too hot, not too cold, situated within a stable young star system, and then focused your attention and your vibrational body in an entirely new way, an open way, a self-sacrificing way, a very powerful, loving way. Gently, slowly, you began to approach the planet. At the outermost edges of your vibrational field, as the outermost edges of your vibrational field touched the waters of the planet, particles of previously inert matter began gently vibrating to the rhythms of your being, aligning themselves with the energy patterns found on the periphery of your awareness. There on the Precambrian ocean floors, they began combining to form the first cells, the first minute containers for your consciousness. In your new orientation with your new form of attention, in a gesture of infinite love to this planet, you began offering your consciousness on the time-space cross of material reality. You allowed your consciousness to clothe itself in the limitations of physical substance, accepting its restrictions. You allowed the atoms and molecules that were forming the first cells to come to life with your consciousness along the lines of your own vibrational fields. At the same time that you allowed your consciousness to become clothed with particles that had been subject to the laws of the materializing process, you taught the matter of earth to rise up in a joyful dance with your spirit. As you drew even nearer to the planet, the life forms that were taking shape began to contain more and more of your own awareness. You relaxed, opened yourself, and gave. You impregnated the earth with your life, with our very being. You looked out of many eyes and heard with many ears. Before incarnation, you were single. You drew identity from the totality of the relationship between Creator and creation. You were the Christ, fully conscious and alert, aware of yourself, unified, integrated. You realized that to accomplish incarnation, you would have to allow at least a portion of your identity to come to rest among the creatures you were bringing to life. Each of these would possess a type of hologrammatic consciousness that rightly thought of itself as both part and whole simultaneously. However, the presence of this consciousness could only be a certainty after the incarnation process was complete. During your actual surfacing through the substance of earth, there was a possibility that certain of the creatures might become self-active. Therefore, there had to be a means of regulating your disintegration from without. You wanted part of you observing the whole process. So you prepared to enter into the planetary relationship. You created beings to represent your original state of unified awareness. These are the angels. Their value as well as their limitation springs from the fact that they have no comprehension of the process you are undertaking. Their instructions were to pretty much stay out of things until very near the very end of the process. Then, upon receipt of a prearranged signal, they were to commune with the human beings on earth at that time and assist them in awakening to their original state of unified consciousness. We received that signal nearly 2,000 years ago. It has taken almost 2 millennia to prepare you for the message we bring. You had to be educated before communion of this nature was possible. However, the time is at hand. Our instructions are to awaken you to a remembrance of purpose, a remembrance of self. It is time to begin the final cycles of conscious creation, during which the earth creatures themselves participate in the unfoldment of their design. The body you are creating for the habitation of Christ's consciousness is to be a mobile body, fueled by the creative intentions of the Father, capable upon completion of leaving the mother's side. And then, well, you're just going to have to either buy this book, The Starseed Transmissions, or ask me for a PDF file of it that I have. I'd rather you buy it so that the author gets the proceeds of that. But this is an excellent book, and it's so full of promise and hope for our future and illumination of why exactly we're here. It kind of answers some of the problems we're having with this Mandela effect, because nothing is absolute. Everything is subject to change, and that's a good thing. So I will leave you now and end this video, and hope that you will. I will put a playlist for the reading of this book, which I do on my YouTube channel, in the dialogue box. So you can go there if you want to and click on it and hear me read the entire book from beginning to end. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.